So I would like to start with how the show came about. And it came about because I saw the Supreme Court decision, which if you were paying attention, you knew that was coming. And I had such a strong visceral reaction to it. I happened to be on a train on vacation, going through the state of Iowa at the time. So my first impulse was, I want to say something about this. I want to communicate about it. And being an artist, the way we communicate is through art. So I contacted, thank goodness it was in Iowa, because I can tell you that Nebraska has no internet. But anyway, on the train, I was able to text my friend Amanda Condit and say, we have to do a show. Let's do a pop-up show. Let's do something that is in response to this decision and how it affects us and how we feel about it. And obviously, I wasn't going to make all the contacts that needed to happen because I was on a train. And Amanda was gracious enough to go out and contact Dolores, who is a mutual friend, and we started the ball rolling so that when I got back, we were able to kind of pull something together. So the show that is here now is the result of that. So that's how the idea got started. Got back from vacation, didn't have to go back to work for 4 days, and I spent 4 days painting 2 of the pieces that I submitted to the show. The first one that I did is actually a little atypical. I call Fetish, and it is made up entirely of tassels and trim and cord, things that you use to decorate curtains and furniture, and I have lots of it because I used to work at a fabric store. So I got it all out and I constructed a torso using those materials. That was kind of my subdued reaction. That was my kind of intellectual subdued reaction, because it became the title, and the impulse of the piece is that this obsession with women's bodies. And like, as a woman, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, why do people care? Right? So that's one of my reactions. And then I went right into the painting, and the title of that painting is Ask Me How I Feel. Absolutely nobody that has seen this painting has any question about how I feel, and that was the intention. The piece actually didn't start as that. I thought I was going to do a piece I was going to call One Size Does Not Fit All, but that's not what happened, because sometimes when you start to paint, it changes. The painting tells you, no, actually, this is what we're going to do. And part of being an artist is learning to follow the intuition. And so that piece became much louder than the first, I think. And kind of the reaction a lot of people have had is like, ooh. And that's good. That's what I wanted, because that's that kind of pullback, that emotional pullback you see when you see something that's kind of like in your face, terrifying. But that piece kind of is the culmination of feelings that I've had that have grown and changed and evolved. But in the end, being a woman, you have to deal with other people being concerned about your body and what you can and cannot do with it. And the reason that both pieces have no heads is because our bodies are talked about and legislated as if we have no head, as if there is no intellectual value to anything above here. And that's a recurring theme in my feminist paintings, but it is the thing that bothers me the most. It is not, when someone comes and only sees parts of you, that's very off-putting and demeaning and disrespectful. It's kind of the nicest word I can use. So that's what those 2 paintings were about. And very briefly, my third thing that is here in the show, I just have I've done a lot of calligraphy. I worked a lot with typeface. So I decided to just what was the word that kept showing up in my head when I was thinking about this work and what I was going to do and what I was going to do in the future. And the word that keeps popping up is no. So I just did it. I just put the word no right in the middle of the page, and I made it very jagged and chunky, and just in little letters wrote not going back, not going back, not going back. It's just, that was the most direct of the pieces, I think, in terms of like, just no, no. Because sometimes that's just the only thing you can say is no, I will not. I will not do that. I will not go back. I will not accept this. And as an older woman, I feel an obligation to the younger generation to let them know that it's okay to say no, and it's okay to protest, and it's actually a moral obligation to make sure that the next generations and the generations after, like my granddaughter's generation, that she will probably have to fight this fight because we've been doing it for a couple thousand years. So this is part of your life. As a woman, this is part of what you have to deal with every single day.
My name is Laura Galimini. I've been an artist most of my life, and I've worked in education. I'm an art educator. And I've always been really interested in communication, and particularly the communication that is fed to us through the media. So this show was very interesting to me. I was invited by Amanda Condit, and she was asking for artworks that were responding to the recent overturn of Roe. But these works that I actually submitted for this, I thought were very relevant in terms of the theme, and I wanted to include them even though they were made prior to this decision. After 2017, I felt like a lot of responses were warranted, that artists really had a call to arms to come out and really express themselves in ways that were kind of blunt and in your face. And my work tends to be that way. It doesn't have a lot of spatial depth. For that reason, like, I really kind of want it to be in your face. So the two pieces that I included, the first one is called Bride of Diaphanous. And this piece deals with, just a woman who's being almost, exacerbated by the messages that she's getting from her culture, such as, stereotypical things like becoming a bride, or feeling asphyxiated by outdated roles. So diaphanous basically means transparency, and veil-like, symbolism. So she's really not able to breathe, and I sort of wanted that to be conveyed in that piece, because I know a lot of us felt that way, that just this suppression of our voice continually really is very, asphyxiating. The second piece that I have included in this show is called Heartbreaker, and Heartbreaker was a difficult piece to make, and this was created in, I think, 2018, so this was right after Trump became our president. I sort of saw it unfolding, and he was chipping away at our personhood as females. So this piece deals with, obviously, abortion as an issue, but it also is sort of got a Renaissance tension that I was really looking for, and I really kind of like to add to my work because I'm kind of a dramatic person in general. But I wanted it to have that tension where we're not sure what decision the person in the painting will be making. So she's kind of caught between, yes and no and not sure. So there's this uncertainty about the painting. She's holding a plastic hanger instead of a wire hanger. And this, for me, was a symbol for, a culture that has, almost minimized us to create, soulless brands of ourselves. And I felt like the plastic sort of, reiterated just how the United States has become so artificial. Well, these pieces, both of them are actually from a series of works that I've been doing that deal directly with the suppression of the female voice. And, I never really set out to be a political artist, and I just sort of became one just because I'm responding to or from a context that's really biased toward my gender. And I felt that I really had a responsibility to address that. So I have been working kind of loosely in collaboration with another artist who is a female. Her name is Susan Doobie. And we work together just on a whim. We decided that would be kind of a cool thing to do where we could meet together and just paint each other. We both are figurative artists, two-dimensional mostly, and we wanted to sort of address what has happened since the second wave of feminism, which she, was a young woman during. She's 20 years older than me, so I was a baby then, so didn't really understand or, have really any feelings toward it. But together we sort of brought, my experience and hers into collaboration, and we've been working on a series of pieces that deal with women being restricted, women being tied, women being suppressed. Many of my pieces in particular deal with my mouth being fused closed or filled with something, whether it's cigarettes or duct tape, and I did do that before the banana incident in Miami, Basel. But I don't know, I just felt like I always had to sort of hold my tongue in many circumstances, and I wanted my art to reflect that women often, and men too, not just women, but women in particular, really have to be careful, or that's what we've been taught, what they say.
My name is Pam Shields Rule, and I am basically a figurative artist. But when Phyllis reached out to me to be in the pop-up show, I thought, well, I have my magnets and I have my buttons that I had made 10 years ago. Of the uterus was like a superpower. And I looked up online what was going on 10 years ago, and there were a record number in 2011 and 2012, there were a record number of state legislatures that passed provisions restricting reproductive rights. So in the aftermath of overturning Roe v. Wade, I thought, wow, these things are still relevant, even more so, because it's just like we've taken 10 million steps back. So I made more buttons and more magnets, and I hope that they end up on refrigerators everywhere. Also, in going back 10 years, I found the original drawing that I had done of my superpower uterus. I took that charcoal drawing, and then I decided that that it deserved a forever stamp. So I submitted, I took a picture of the drawing, and then I worked on it in colored pencil, and I developed a forever stamp. And I submitted it to the post office, and they acknowledged receipt and said if they decided to do this, they would let me know. Well, needless to say, I have not heard from them. I still think my superpower uterus stamp would be a great addition. Also at that time, I made the superpower uterus into a hex sign for women. And that is what I photographed for the buttons and the magnets. Mostly I have dealt with, as I said, I'm a figurative artist. So I deal with the female body and trying to show the female body as it is, the beauty in every person's body, not the idealized version. So in that sense, I think that my art is feminist, because I try and portray women in all their beauty. Because as you draw something, you realize how beautiful it is just the way it is, that you don't have to change anything. When I heard about, I knew that it probably would happen, that Roe v. Wade would be overturned. And when it happened, I was just very saddened and angry, and just felt like a slap in the face, and worried about my daughter, my granddaughter, and very sad about the direction that the country is going in terms of women's rights. I mean, no one should tell me how to deal with an unwanted pregnancy or whatever the issue. It's my body, my choice.
Okay. Hi, my name is Amanda Condit, and I'm an artist. And I guess the whole idea of this show was actually my friend Phyllis's. Phyllis and I have been friends for many, many, many years. We worked together at different times. And it was her idea. She is probably, not probably, definitely more of a political activist than I am. Like, I have strong feelings, but I've always tended to kind of not do a lot of activist type things. I think it came from all those years of like working and raising my kids, and who has time. But anyway, she has very strong feelings about this. She was on a vacation. She came home. Probably the first thing she did was to call me and say, "We need to do a show about the Supreme Court ruling. It needs to be now. It needs to be urgent. It needs to be visceral. It needs to be before November. Let's do it." And I said, "Yeah," because I'm a good follower. She's a great leader, and I'm a good follower. I'm good at aiding. My big talent is aiding and abetting. So I said, "Yeah, let's do it." So she said, "Where should we do it?" And I said, "Well, let me call Dolores, because I know that Dolores has a lot of the same sensibilities, and Dolores is not afraid of a little bit of conflict, or I know that the organization can't choose a political side, but she's allowed to have a show that." So then we just got busy and started calling people we know who might have something to say about the Supreme Court rulings. And of course, because we feel a certain way, most of our friends feel are similar thoughts. So a lot of the work, I think, is all of it, but one artist is coming from the viewpoint of these are terrible rulings. The Supreme Court, especially ruling down Roe versus Wade, is one of the worst, probably the worst thing that could happen to women's rights, which women's rights are human rights, basically. It's probably the worst thing that could happen in the history of our country, almost, to women. And so most of the artists have similar strong feelings. There is one artist who came at it from the other side, who is a what do you call it? Pro-birth? I forget what the name. Pro-life. And her pieces are celebrating probably the Supreme Court ruling. But I discussed it with Dolores, and basically we don't want to throttle anyone's voices. If someone has an opinion, pro or con, that's their opinion. And this show is about artists' response to it. So her response is very valid, where she was coming from. So we included her in the show too. I think the show came out. I think it's a powerful set of images. I think we as artists are very visual. We're visual thinkers. We're visual everything. But I think most people, even non-artists, respond to images more than they the combination of images and words is the most powerful combination there is. Sometimes you need words to clarify the image, but I think images are the primary thing that people respond to and that grab them, And I think this show is very grabbing. It is visceral. It's exactly, I think, what Phyllis had in mind when she suggested it. And I think it's a great show. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. And I hope it gets people thinking, thinking about what this means to the future of women in this country. But I thought the piece that I entered was very fitting of the, most of my work is in that line, because I am a woman, because I grew up during a lot of the conflict of women's rights, because I remember pre-Roe versus Wade, because I'm old, So a lot of my work does have the theme of, it's not a real in-your-face women's rights, but there's always that underlying current. My work is always about people, and most often about the female person, and issues that affect women, and about relationships. My work is a lot about people's relationships. Women are more attuned to relating to other people, I think, than men are. I think it's something innate. Maybe it has to do with the fact that maybe that's why women were always more often the child rearers and holding the families together kind of thing. But so my work has always been about that. There's always been some kind of theme running through my work. And this piece that I did, I don't know, my work is affected by my current mood or what's happening in my life. That's pretty obvious, right? But this piece, I think I was probably angry about something. And I really did feel like in some ways, and this was, like I said, over a year ago probably that I did it, so it was long before the Roe versus Wade was overturned. I feel like sometimes there's a war, and I don't want to say, okay, I'm saying a war on women, which when I was interviewed about a year ago by Ron Shira, and he said, don't you feel like there's a war on women? I said, no, there's not a war on women. That sounds too militant, but there's definitely an undervaluing of women. And so it's almost like if you don't become more demanding or more like this is what I need or I deserve or I want, it's so easy just to get trampled right over and to lose rights that should be obvious that you have, that there should be no reason, that no one should ever lose the right of the autonomy over their own body. Why is it happening? I don't believe in conspiracies. I don't believe that men are out to get women. I mean, men love women, women love men. But it's just something in the dynamic of men and women and their natures, or the way it's always played out in society or something, that women need to speak up more. And at least I found in my own life, if you don't ask for what you need, you're not going to get it. If you don't state what's right, people assume that it's okay to do what they want and ignore your needs or your wants. And something I learned, and I think the piece that I did is saying something about that, it's a doll's head, it's angel wings, it's little soldiers shooting up into her vagina, it's a necklace that says sexy. I mean, I think I've said this before, but when I make a piece, I don't necessarily plan what it's saying, but I have an idea of what I want, how I want it to look, or what I'm aiming for, and then things just started creeping into the piece and creating a story. Because the story's there, obviously, in my subconscious. And maybe it's like putting it on paper, or in this case, it's a 3D kind of assemblage. It's putting it into a fixed visual form that brings the story out of me, whatever that story was.